Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my reaction to Doctor Who Series 12, Episode 10, The Timeless Children. I, I don't think we have had a crazier Doctor Who episode before this one. I mean, we've had some crazy, wild ones throughout the over 56 years of the show. But my goodness, this one really, wow, this one, I don't know whether it's good crazy or bad crazy, or I mean, it's definitely a mix of the two. Okay, so before anyone says anything about ruining canon or anything, let's just remind ourselves that throughout the said 56 years of the show, canon has been overwritten many times. For a start, let's take an example. The Morbius Doctors from 1976's The Brain of Morbius implies that there was 8 incarnations before William Hartnell, and following the Lords of the Deadly Assassin later that year, had those 8 Doctors been before Hartnell actually been the Doctor, which they actually might be now. After all this time, they might actually, yes, they may actually are. But so you're sticking to the 13 incarnation rule. If those 8 were the first 8 Doctors before William Hartnell, then Peter Davison would have been the last Doctor, and as the case of Androzani's ending proved, that was not the case. So canon has been rewritten quite a few times. So actually, considering that what we get revealed about the Doctor, spoiler alert for this reaction, it's revealed that the Doctor is the Timeless Child, and she's apparently from another dimension, and was tested and not experimented on, but used to test in experiments. And then at some point, the memories were erased and regenerated back into a child, and would probably have started as William Hartnell, would grow up into William Hartnell's Doctor, and start a new set of 13 incarnations, just like any other regular Time Lord, although a little bit different. Still unsure whether the Roof Doctor is one of these previous incarnations or not, especially considering that the Timeless Child kept regenerating into a child, or a teenager, or a young man. Possibly, as they grew up, they probably may have regenerated into the 8 Morbius Doctors and Roof, just on with Roof Wilson, Joe Martin's Doctor, the Roof Doctor, and then some point after that, they erased the memories and gave him just the restricted 13 incarnations that led to that started with William Hartnell's Doctor, or the Doctor that would become William Hartnell, the first Doctor as we know them. And so I guess maybe William Hartnell may not be the first incarnation of the Doctor, but he might be the first Time Lord incarnation. So considering that the first Doctor, played by William Hartnell, could be the first Time Lord incarnation of the Doctor, but before that had many incarnations as whatever this Timeless Child was, whatever she, I think it was a she to start with, whatever she was, and whatever we started with, whatever they were, and then they got the DNA taken from them because that was absorbed into the Time Lords. I wonder how they did the whole story of Rassilon and Omega. Maybe that was part of the history, because they said they were able to travel in time, and that was part of Omega's story. So maybe the Omega and Rassilon stories are true, but they fit into the part of the story of the Timeless Child. I wonder if the story of the Other is pretty much erased at this point, or as a lie to hide this story. Maybe the Other is, in fact, the Other might even have been a fictional story to disguise the Timeless Child stuff, but the Rassilon and Omega stuff could be more or less true, maybe. Certainly in the time travel aspect at least. And we've seen both Time Lords in the show, both in as heroes and also as villains. Time Lord heroes and also villains of their particular stories that they've been in, e.g. the 3 Doctors for Omega, most notably, and for Rassilon anytime in the new series. But yeah, it's quite strange that the Timeless Child is the Doctor. The Doctor is the Timeless Child. They were from another dimension. They've arrived in this dimension, and Gallifreyans, or who would become Gallifreyans, sort of tested using that power. And somehow, after a long time, they are able to create the Time Lords. And at some point into the future, maybe after several incarnations of the Timeless Child growing up, possibly including the 8 Morbius Doctors from The Brain of Morbius and the Roof Doctor from Fugitive of the Jadoon, who also makes a cameo here, although from the Matrix's point of view. I'll get back to that. And then after that, taking them and then turning them back into a child, erasing their memories, and giving them the limited Time Lord regeneration number of 12 regenerations, 13 incarnations, starting with the incarnation that would eventually grow up into who we know as the First Doctor, as played by William Hartnell, Richard Herndale, and David Bradley, as well as a couple of other voice actors for Big Finish. But most notably William Hartnell, and then we go from there up to Matt Smith, and then the new set of lives for Peter Capaldi, and then he gets a new set of lives, and then that's where we get the second lot of incarnations. Uncertain the limit here. Let's just presume it's 13 again, and Jodie Whittaker is technically the second on a new batch of 13 lives. Let's just presume. Technically, she's the 15th incarnation of the Time Lord side of the Doctor. However, as it's implied here, there may have been several more, not even a limit to how it was beforehand. But as far as I'm concerned, that was before they erased her memories, started her off as a child, and whatever she was before, now she's got the Time Lord DNA, he's got the Time Lord DNA inside of him, and we start again from the beginning, this time with who would become the First Doctor, is the first incarnation of the Time Lord side of the Doctor, and they've forgotten about who they were in the past life, and the Time Lord DNA has taken over. Wondering how the whole half-human side comes into play then. Unless that was another lie, that was a story, especially as, in Timeless Child had an adoptive mother from Gallifrey, the planet that would become Gallifrey, but with the Doctor in their Time Lord form, they would have this story about their heritage, their childhood or something, some sort of way to disguise it, perhaps. But yeah, this is quite a strange revelation. But thinking about it, it could just work. And at the same time, continuity isn't too damaged. Just so long as we can say William Hartnell's First Doctor is the First Doctor of the Time Lord regeneration cycle. Starting from him, the Doctor is in fact a Time Lord. But before that, they were this other person. They were the Timeless Child and had many lives. Then got the Time Lord DNA implanted in them. That was the same DNA that had been discovered and developed following the taking of DNA from the Timeless Child, and that would have become the Time Lord DNA. And then that Time Lord DNA overtakes the original, and then starting from incarnation number 1 of this new 13 lives regeneration cycle. And the Doctor is now fully Time Lord, or half Time Lord at the very least. And like I said, we start from the first incarnation with that. And William Hartnell, for me, is the first incarnation of the Time Lord side of the Doctor. If we put what we came before this to the side, William Hartnell remains the First Doctor, or at least of the Time Lord side of things. Canon remains intact, just about. And also Morbius Doctor fans, like Roman Guren? That might have been a parody video, but anyone who thinks the Morbius Doctors are canon, they could be potentially incarnations of the Timeless Child. This does mean that the expanded media stories of the other might not come into play anymore. That's the only thing. But as far as the television series are concerned, William Hartnell remains the First Doctor as far as he is concerned, as far as Time Lord incarnations are concerned. And therefore, Jodie Whittaker is the 15th incarnation, technically, of the Time Lord regeneration cycle, as far as we are aware. Although, whether Jo Martin is pre-Hartnell or post-Hartnell is still to be determined. But I wouldn't be surprised if she, like the Morbius Doctors, is pre-Hartnell. But maybe she's the experiment. Maybe she's the one that the later Doctors are based on. Maybe she's the practice. Maybe she's incarnation number 0, one of the Timeless Children's incarnations, but acting like what her future incarnations would be. Just a basis of what the Doctor could be, but with a few tweaks and improvements before we get started with the actual first incarnation, who becomes William Hartnell's incarnation, as I keep reminding you, because I'm pretty certain William Hartnell is still the first Doctor as far as Time Lord incarnations are concerned. Anything else is anything to do with this timeless child. That from William Hartnell onwards, definitely the Time Lord side. But yeah, that was the biggest stuff in that episode. But it's also got the Master has got this big plan to take the Cyberium and take it inside of him, as well as Ashad having this bomb that would destroy organic life. And his big plan is to turn the Cybermen into robots, properly destroy organic life, which amusingly and rightly so, the Master disagrees with, and he plans to have the organic side of the Time Lords that he's killed merge with Cybermen bodies and have them regenerate so they could be indestructible. Meanwhile, the humans and the Doctor's friends have to continue to fight the Cybermen and find a way to survive. And there's some nice references and past nods to classic stories. There's nice nods to the Deadly Assassin once or twice. There's the Matrix is back, also seen in the Deadly Assassin, and also in Trial of a Time Lord. And the Doctor's mentioned that she's been in the Matrix before and she's survived. And I mentioned, and I said twice to my parents, because of the Doctor has actually done it twice with Deadly Assassin and Trial of a Time Lord: The Ultimate Foe. In the former case, the Master was sort of behind of it, although it was Chancellor Goff who was just as well. Although it was Chancellor Goff who was technically fighting the Doctor, and in the latter, the Master again was there, but it was again the Valiard who was manipulating the Matrix. This time, it's definitely the Master, without anybody else doing anything. Well, technically, in Trial of a Time Lord, it wasn't even his plan; he was just there. There's also a bit in the story where Graham, Yaz, and two humans pretend to be Cybermen. They dress up like Cybermen, and it gives me Attack of the Cybermen vibes, where two humans, partly converted Cybermen, tried to pretend to be a prisoner and escort to get into cyber control. This doesn't go all too far. I think this story does a bit more of it than that story, but it does give me vibes of that. Not to mention, in the previous episode, we got vibes from Tomb of the Cybermen and Earthshock, with the Cybermen in cold storage on a spaceship. All they needed was some plastic to open, and both those stories, along with The Invasion and Army of Ghosts, would be even more referenced. That would be really cool if the Cybermen cut their way through some plastic again. That would be fun. Yeah, this episode is just a bit mad. It's got a lot to do, and I think it succeeds in places. I think it opens up a lot more doors to discussion. Questions to the fan base. Again, like I said earlier, it's going to cause, I think it's going to cause a lot of talk about the fan base, but I think it just about holds the previously established canon just into place, just a little bit. If we presume that the Time Lords, once the Time Lord DNA has been taken from the Timeless Child, and once it's been developed into Time Lords, and then they raise the memory of the Timeless Child and start them as a literal child once again, because they've all grown up and now they've become a child now, and they've got Time Lord DNA into them, and they've got Time Lord's regeneration limits. We're starting again, and that child eventually grows up into the first Doctor, and then uses up all their incarnations by the time he gets to the 11th Doctor, and then they give the Doctor another set of regenerations, and we're currently on that, the second incarnation of those lives. And we're currently on the second of those, I would say at least 13 lives. I would say at least 13 if there's no limit, because they don't say how many exactly. But let's just presume the second of the second lot of 13 lives. But yeah, this is just quite a crazy episode. Yeah, also the ending. Oh my god, what the ending is one of the biggest cliffhangers of a episode that is at the very end of a story. Not necessarily a cliffhanger of, oh, this is part one of how many a number of episodes. This is a cliffhanger of this story to a later story going on. Think I'm not actually sure if it's done this before. It probably has. I think the closest I can think of at the moment Well, the closest two are either the very end of a series finale, like in series 2, series 3, series 8, where they have something happen at the very end that leads into the Christmas special, or at the end of series 5, where we've got some things explained, but not everything is explained. There's still some stuff to explore in the next series or later series down the line. But this one I think is probably one of the first, or at least the only one I can think of that has a cliffhanger that is a cliffhanger at the end of this series for the next series. Or at least might be for the Christmas episode anyway, because we will be getting a Christmas episode and it will feature the Daleks. Revolution of the Daleks this time. But that cliffhanger, the Jadoon somehow infiltrate the TARDIS. How on earth did they do that? Has the TARDIS defenses just been down all this time? And the Doctor is sent to a high security prison for life. Okay, they didn't want to execute it this time. Maybe they want imprisonment for this one, but execution for Jo Martin's Doctor. And I'm pretty certain this prison is Sharda from the Tom Baker Partly Unfinished story. Okay, that was quite a crazy cliffhanger. Okay. This was just a very crazy episode, and I think there was quite a lot into it, and I think it could have slowed down in places. Maybe some of the stuff could have been in the last episode. That last episode has spent a lot of time with the whole Brendan stuff, and it's explained here that it's sort of visions, that this whole division thing, which may have been the origins for the Celestial Intervention Agency, the CIA, well, Gallifrey's CIA anyway. Maybe it's sort of just projections of thoughts. It's I'm not quite certain, but it's a bit strange. But I think quite a bit of the problem is that they spent a lot of time with the whole Brendan stuff in the last episode, and it's sort of explained here, but not too much and not into much detail. I think quite a bit of the story should have overtaken some of it, should have been in that place. It's a bit odd. Also, at the very start, a supporting character is killed in a scene where I think, had this been a classic series story, it would have been at the very end of the previous episode. Then we get the cliffhanger, and then start of this episode, it would have been recapped, but they wouldn't get a credit in the end credits for this episode, and then the resolution to the cliffhanger. If it was Classic Who, it would have been at the other end of the cliffhanger. Or on the very least, they would then go back and try and rescue her. But by the looks of it, she is probably dead. So on the whole, the Timeless Children, and they call it the Timeless Children, but I suppose that's in a reference to the Time Lords. But I suppose it would have been better if they'd called it the Timeless Child, and it would have made more sense as it focuses on that. There's also still quite a bit of stuff that's been erased and not yet revealed, which could be next series'. Could be revealed next series. And yeah, it's just a crazy episode. It's just crazy, and I don't know if that's in a good way or a not good way. Canon just about sticks with the whole revelations, so people don't have to get a knickers in a twist, like they might have done with Fugitive of the Jadoon. I'm looking at you, Jack McCulloch. No offense, but yeah, it's still quite a crazy episode. Still pretty difficult to get your head around. I'm trying to get my head around it. I'm just the whole stuff. It's sort of a little theorizing going into the facts we get, but I'm pretty certain Hartnell's first Doctor is the first Time Lord Doctor. It's just that whatever they did to the Timeless Child and gave them Time Lord's DNA whilst erasing their memories, that's how the Time Lord side of the Doctor started, and that's that first incarnation is the first Doctor as played by William Hartnell. I'm pretty certain about that. So, yeah, the only thing I'm not certain about is where Jo Martin's Doctor fits in, but I'm presuming the Timeless Child lot, possibly. It's also cool to have the 13th Doctor reflect on her life, as well as her past incarnations, both as the Doctor and pre-Doctor. It's really cool to see the previous 13 Doctors back here, as well as the nice nod to Morbius Doctors and Jo Martin and anybody else who pops up. Pre-Hartnell, but again, as the Timeless Children's incarnations, not the Doctor. I'm still going to refer the Morbius Doctors and the Ruth Doctor as the Morbius Doctors and the Ruth Doctor, even if they're incarnations of the Timeless Child, probably. But as far as names go, it makes sense. So that's the Timeless Children, and that's it from series 12. I will be doing the review of Ascension of the Cybermen and the Timeless Children soon. I'm also going to rewatch series 12 for the ranking afterwards, so that'll be coming up in a few weeks. Also, notably, some series 2 reviews will be coming up on the Retro channel soon. Recorded the first the Love and Monsters and Fear Her reviews, Army of Ghosts and Doomsday's review, and the Series 2 ranking will be following. I do have to say that it is going to be very frustrating having that cliffhanger. We're going to have to wait. If it's going to be a Christmas episode, it's going to have to wait 9 months, almost 10, for Christmas, and then another roughly 8, 9, 10 months until Series 13. We've got the second longest gap between series in the new series after Series 4 to 5s, and that gap had 5 specials in between, not 1. We've only got 1 special in the 18-month gap between series 12 and 13, roughly 18 months. It could be 9, could be 19, it could be 17. But yeah, we've only got 1 special, while series 4 to 5's gap, which was about 21 months, I calculated. But that had 5 specials, so yeah, that one's okay being 21 months between series because they got 5 extra episodes. We only get 1 extra episode here. Thankfully, it's situated halfway, more or less, if series 13 comes in September. It's also notable for being the another 18-month gap between series, just like seasons 22 to 23. I don't think Revelation of the Daleks' cliffhanger was. Revelation of the Daleks, where the Sixth Doctor says he'll take Perry somewhere where it was going to be Blackpool, but they edited it out to be a tease for the next season. But then that planned season got changed to Trial of a Time Lord, as we know it. But this season's series' cliffhanger is much bigger than the Doctor not revealing where he's going to take Perry on holiday until the start of the next series. It's a bit bigger than that, quite a lot. I'm hoping that it is Shada that they have gone to, because that'd be a nice bit of continuity referencing. And Shada finally got complete back in 2017, thanks to animation and some new scenes. So can reference Shada if they want to, because it technically now is complete, so we can technically reference it. So that'd be interesting. I'd like that to happen. The Daleks will also be back, and hopefully Captain Jack too. He's been supposedly spotted on set. And the companions as well. None of them left in this episode, so we can presume they're all going to be in the Christmas episode. Maybe some of them will leave there. We'll see. But yeah, it just feels like this episode is leaving on a big cliffhanger. And I'm not quite sure about it, because it's a great idea, but we've got to wait 9 months until it's resolved. 9. And then another 9 months until the next series. I just want yearly Doctor Who back. I know quality over quantity, I know, but still, I just want yearly Doctor Who back. I thought we were going to do that, but no, next series is going to be in the autumn. Maybe it's just the damn ratings. Oh, damn it. Why are the ratings so slow this series? Why are they so low in series 10 as well, come to think of it? But anyway, that's it from this reaction. Thank you for watching. Once again, I'm pretty sure canon's just about sticking together, so it doesn't feel too damaged. Just about sticking together. Hold it, just as long as we can consider William Hartnell the first Time Lord incarnation of the Doctor, everything's just about okay. Yeah, that's about it from me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in an upcoming review. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. But it might be the first incarnation of the Doctor, considering there would be several, whatever this timeless child, wherever this timeless child, but would be the first. But so considering that William Hartnell could be his first Doctor, we've seen both incarnation, both Time Lord, although not from. This does mean that the other theory, the story about But yeah, there's also some nice references to there's also but it's just more sense in a name. In, I've also yeah. Army of Ghost Doomsdays in the Series 2 ranking arc will be. And Sharda got partly reanimated, and Sharda got. I just want yearly Doctor Who back. I just want it to be back like Russell T Davies era. Yeah. I just want